Lativola, and I'm back with another installment of What Would Kelly Make? And it's been 1 year. It's been a whole year since we've been doing this segment, and I totally love it, and I hope that you guys love it as well, and you're really enjoying learning things. Today we are going to be doing multicolor stripe stamping. And so I picked the parcel that had the Write at Home, Color in Sentiments, and Watercolor background. I love these stripes. I love any sort of wide stripes, but I thought that it would be really fun because they are, they mimic watercolor striping, like if you did it with a flat brush. So I picked out a bunch of Simon Says Stamp inks. These are rainbow colors, from all the way from red down through the hot lips, because you can't leave that out, right? And I'm just going to do some basic stamping with them. I made myself a little cheat sheet you saw there, because you want to, when you're stamping this, you want to alternate the colors. So I'm starting, just because it's easier, I'm starting with the lipstick red because, you know, rainbows, Roy G. Biv. We all know how that goes. But I'm going to skip the orange peel because that's going to be later, and I'm going to move on to the sunshine. So just like after the sunshine, I'm going to skip the key lime, and I'm going to do the scuba. Don't mind my mini cube. I couldn't find my big ink pad, but I really wanted that color. So that's why I have it in two, right? That's why I got two different ink pads. We're skipping the island blue, and then we're going to the deep purple. So when you stamp this down, you're going to have a lot of white area because you only have 4 stripes. The reason that I choose to do this in my MISTI is because it's super easy to kind of line everything up if for some reason you have a misstamp or you don't get really good coverage. But then I'm going to clean it in between. So I just have like a rag, like an old rag that was sitting on my desk. Once everything, like the stamp is dry, I'm actually going to remove the stamp and I'm going to flip it upside down. I'm going to put this in place so there's, the striping is going to be where it's negative right now, so where the white areas are. And then I'm going to do those colors that we skipped. So I'm going to start with the orange peel, and then the key lime, then the island blue, and then the last one I will use is the hot lips. And this is just really kind of super simple stamping to cover a whole background, to give you a rainbow and that fun kind of watercolor look. The reason I turned it upside down is so that all the lines would not be the same. It wouldn't be like matchy-matchy. I love the way these kind of like lay over each other and mix and match. In order to get that gapping that was at the bottom, because the stamp didn't go all the way up to the top, I'm just going to, instead of flipping the stamp this time, I'm just going to flip my card base, and I'm just going to go back in one last time with that hot lips just so they kind of overlap and it fills up the whole background. For this one, I wanted to try something a little bit different to see if I get a more watercolor look. So this one, I'm starting with the sunshine. You don't have to go Roy G. Biv. You know, you can do whatever makes you happy. So I'm starting with the sunshine, and then I'm going in with that rag. It is damp, and I'm just blotting off some color and stamping that down. Then I'm going to clean that off, and I'm going to go back in with the key lime. And I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to add this ink to the bottom portion of the stripe. And then I'm going to tap, tap, tap with my little rag and kind of blend out that top edge. And then stamp that down so I have a more blended look. The only difference with this one is the negative space in between. I'm not going to be skipping any colors because that stripe will be the key lime into the scuba. And then so this one that is the actual stripe is the scuba into the island blue. So this does not allow you to use as many colors as just doing the 8 stripes by themselves, but it does give you a much more watercolor look. And so depending upon what you're interested in, what ultimate look that you're going for, it's just 2 different options to try. This works really well because of the wide stripes. They aren't close set to each other, so you really don't have to worry too much about getting your color on another stripe. This one, I didn't feel like they blended great because I took off too much color. So I'm going to, I put the purple down and then I blended it and I was like, I took off too much color. I'm going to go back in and do it again. These Simon Says Stamp inks like blend really beautifully and they stay wet a long time. So when I go in with the hot lips, because it is so much lighter than that deep purple, I was concerned that it wouldn't really blend. So you'll notice that I didn't clean off my stamp in between. I kind of left some of that purple there. I was very careful with the corner of my stamp And you can see I have all this white area. So I'm just going to go in and do it again. It's not, again, the joy of having that stamp position or that MISTI is I can do it as many times as I want to. As long as my cardstock holds up, it's no problem to just stamp those lighter colors twice, get them to blend with the darker, and it works really well. So now for this one, like I was saying, that negative space is going to be the next layer of color. So I'm doing the key lime again. This time I had already moved the stamp. And then I'm going to do the SCUBA. So you're stamping each color twice to get that more blended look with the blending. But I think it's totally worth it. And it goes by really fast because you're only doing one stripe at a time. So you can see how much more watercolored this looks. For the color on the bottom, the yellow is so much lighter than the orange peel. I actually put down the yellow first, and then I went back in with orange peel just on the top and did the little blotty trick so that they would blend really nicely into one another. So you'll be able to see here in just a second. I'll give you a comparison, a side-by-side comparison of the two different looks. So the one on the right is the one that's just stamping all 8 stripes, and the one on the left is doing the color blending. I also wanted to show you, I did this vertically as well. I went Jennifer McGuire on these backgrounds because I just kept making them because they were so much fun to do and just kind of try out. So here I'm just going to show you the one on the the left-hand side is the one that was watercolored, and then this one is just the regular stripe. But even this, you can see how you get some really beautiful overlapping of those colors, and they just mix really well. So I've kind of cut everything apart. I used the basic banners, the basic squares, basic rectangles to kind of cut out some pieces parts. I've run all of this through my Big Shot, and then I'm going to start putting the cards together. These sentiments are amazing, especially if you're a person who likes color like I do. So this one says, be a pop of color in a black and white world. There's another one that says, you make me smile when skies are gray. They're so fun. And because they're that outline, they're such a different look. So that one I just stamped on a regular Neenah square with intense black ink because I'm going to color it with Copics. This one is a vellum circle, so I treated it with my embossing buddy. I'm going to stamp it down in Versamark, and then I'm going to put on some white embossing powder and then just go ahead and heat set that. I did that also with a banner. This one I used the basic squares die to cut a square out of the front of it, and then I'm going to pop this up on some Scotch foam tape onto my card base so that there's like a nice big window. This would be super fun to do a shaker card with because it's got such that vibrant background. But instead, I decided I was going to cut out a second square, and I stamped my sentiment on it. I'm going to use some white craft foam to pop up the whole square. I just happened to have one that was perfect size, like how serendipitous, right? And I'm going to put that in and pop it up. Then I'm going to zoom in so you can see the little Copic coloring. Basically what I did was I just picked colors that I knew would blend well together. If you have any questions about color blending families, by all means, there's another What Would Kelly Make that I did where it talks about blending color families. Please go see that video because it will help you understand how to do that. But really, this is such a small area that if you have two colors that you're worried about blending, just have them cross over at a smaller area. It's way easier to blend than in a larger area. So I'm just working my way across the card using these rainbow colors so that everything is kind of matchy-matchy and it follows the flow of the card. Certainly don't need to do that. That's just how I did it. Started with the violet and moved over to the red. For this card, I actually trimmed down my panel and I'm popping up. So I put down some Simon Says Stamp white glitter paper. I'm popping, doing the black over top of that so there's a nice black outline. And then I'm going to use that same white fun foam to pop up my stamped panel. So that way it's got a bunch of dimension to it since it is more simple. Now this card I decided to use as a vertical card, but you certainly could use it as horizontal. It would be super cute with a banner coming in. you know, from the left or the right hand side. I decided that I was going to put this vellum circle on it. You'll see in the back, I put my Nouveau drops, I used ebony Nouveau drops, and I put them on the back first so I would have another area in which to hide my adhesive. And then I also hid it behind that embossing, so the parts where the lines were thicker. I just did little teeny tiny dots so you won't be able to see it coming through the front. This thank you one, even though these stamps are outline, you can customize them to work for whatever you're doing. So I colored this one in because I felt like the sentiment was getting a little bit lost on this colored background. So I just colored it in with a black Copic marker, and then decided I wanted to pop this up on foam as well, since it was just going to be the inside of the card. So just putting that together, and then I'm going to put a black and white embossed sentiment on there. So just gluing that down is really kind of simple, but because we have those bright pops of colors from all the stamping that we did, it doesn't really need to be busy. This one I just wanted to show you. I wanted to separate my sentiment so that it would fit nicely around that thank you, which is just beautiful. And so I did it with washi tape. I masked part of the sentiment with washi tape. I'm going to stamp the beginning part of the sentiment to the left hand side of the Y, and then I cleaned it off really good. You want to make sure it's clean. You don't want to get gray or like leftover ink on your card, like whatever you're stamping on, the card panel. And then I masked the other part of it and then finished stamping the sentiment. So it says thank you for brightening my day, and I just fixed it up so that it would be different. So here's a look at all the cards that I made. This one on the left, it has the vellum heat embossing. I used white Nouveau drops for the banner. The one on the right is the one that you saw me put together, and I used black, the ebony Nouveau drops for that one. This one, I popped up the center of it and just did the quick Copic coloring. On the right, I popped this one up as well, added some Nouveau drops and just that black or white heat embossing on black. I wanted to show you that I literally used every bit of this paper. So these ones on the right here just have the scraps, like little strips literally, and they are enough to carry a card with just the pop of color. So those are all of the cards. I hope that you guys will give this a try. You can use any wide striping or any striping really that you have to try this technique. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.